You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
So Sherlock Holmes and Watson go on a camping trip. And after a good meal and a bottle of wine, they lay down for the night and went to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes awakens, looks around, nudges his faithful friend, and says, "Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see." Watson replies, "I see a million and millions of stars." "What does that tell you?" Watson ponders for a moment. "Well, astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potential billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, I deduce that the time is approximately 3:15. Theologically, I can see that God is all-powerful and that we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, I suspect that we'll have a beautiful day tomorrow. What does it tell you, Holmes?" Holmes just shook his head. "Watson, once again you have missed the most elementary thing. Someone has stolen our tent." Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It's good to see Cool and Triple B here. I expect Ed will be showing up soon. JD is on the board, and we have got kind of an interesting show today because we're going to do the news, and then when we take a break, we're going to come back, and there is a new Marvel rumor going around that has suddenly changed people's opinions on something. And I want to talk about it, but I want to give you guys a chance to bail out if you don't want the spoiler or what this rumor is. After that, I got an opportunity to watch the colorized version of Werewolf by Night. Noticed a few things that I hadn't really thought about or didn't catch the first time. And we'll bring that up. So that is our plan for today. But we will jump right into the news, and we're going to avoid the real world news. You know, I know there is the horrible shooting in Maine. The guy is still on the loose. I hope all of you are safe. I hope the guy gets captured soon. I feel for the family. Everything going on in Israel, I feel for all of the innocent bystanders there. You know, Ukraine, Acapulco. I mean, you turn on the news and you're barely going to hear anything about the fact that a Category 5 hurricane surprisingly hit Acapulco yesterday. It was a tropical storm 24 hours beforehand, suddenly jumped to a Category 5 and hit the frickin' coast and hit Acapulco. And the last time they had a hurricane of any kind, which was a much smaller one, 200 people died. So, but you'd be hard pressed to find any information about all that on the news right now because they were so focused on the comings and goings of the Republicans and the House Speaker and what was going on in Israel that they seem to forget that there's other news in the world. So I would like it kind of like how I do the news. I do all the news. I cover all the things that are interesting to the pop culture world. I don't just focus on one story the entire time. So, all right, that's my rant about the news. As soon as somebody wants to call up and give me control of one of the major networks, I'll be happy to go take care of it. But for now, I'll stick here on my little show with you guys. All right, let's jump into the news with our first story. Has to do with the final Arrowverse show. And I don't even know if it counts as an Arrowverse show, but Superman and Lois, which is still going on the CW. Well, the budget cuts that came with the renewals of Superman and Lois and All American Homecoming have finally hit the writer's room. They're going through a downsizing. Superman and Lois is going from 8 writers in the room down to 5 for the upcoming 4th season, while Homecoming is going from 9 to 7. Now, there are no changes to the writers' rooms for the 2 CW returning original scripted series, All American and Walker, Texas Ranger. But Superman and Lois and All American Homecoming were renewed in June after the producing studio Warner Brothers agreed to deliver the new seasons at a significantly lower license fee to make them feasible for the network under its new lower cost original programming model. I mean, because you know that Warner Brothers and basically the CW got sold to Nexstar, and they're doing everything on the super cheap. So if they can't get it on a budget, they're not going to do it. So to keep Superman and Lois out there, they're making some budget cuts. Part of that led to some cast members not returning, trimming it down to the number of series regulars quite a bit. But that took place before the SAG-AFTRA strike, while the writer's room trimmed down had to wait until after the WGA strike ended. So Superman and Lois is still coming, season 4, but it's getting trimmed back quite a bit. So expect the special effects budget to be cut as well, and Superman's going to fly very seldomly now. He's going to be almost like Lois and Smallville, no flights, no tights. Expect a few bottle episodes. You know what a bottle episode is, right? That's where they basically use existing sets and keep it to a minimum of people. Just do everything inside. All right, moving on to the next one. There's a new adult fixing to start season 3, Love, Superman and Lois. I watched the character on Arrow when it was on the Arrowverse. I haven't had a chance to really watch the show. I don't know what happened. After the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing, I watched the end of Green Arrow. I watched the end of Black Lightning. And I just kind of tapped out after that. I was done, and I haven't gone back since. So, all right, there's a new adult animated limited series from Community and Rick and Morty writer Dan Guterman, and it's coming to Netflix. Carol and the End of the World is set to debut on Netflix with a 10-episode season on December 15th. Now, Martha Kelly from Euphoria and Baskets will star as the titular character Carol. And it's a love letter to routine, is what it says. A show about the comforts of monotony. An animated and existential comedy about the daily rituals that make up the gaps that make up a life. Gutterman said in a statement on Thursday, a logline for the series reads, "With the mysterious planet hurtling towards Earth, extinction is imminent for the people of the world. While most feel liberated to pursue their wildest dreams, one quiet and always uncomfortable woman stands alone, lost among the hedonistic masses." And they're doing that animated. Wow. Jay says, I said I was going to watch an episode or 2, ended up binging both seasons that night. Nice. I know they did the original Fleischer version of the costume in the first episode, and a lot of people were in love with that. And Tyler Hoechlin is supposedly a great Superman. Bitsy Turlock is a good Lois. So, like I said, I'm going to give it a shot. I just haven't had a chance. All right, moving over to canceled series. Paramount is canceling or not asking for second seasons for 2 of their series. Rabbit Hole and Fatal Attraction. Rabbit Hole was a spy drama that starred Kiefer Sutherland, which seems redundant because Kiefer Sutherland kind of plays spies or people who accidentally become president. Fatal Attraction was a reimagining of the 1987 movie that featured Joshua Jackson as Leslie Kaplan. Paramount says, we want to thank both series' entire creative teams, crews, and fantastic cast for their dedication to bringing these series to life. Both Fatal Attraction and Rabbit Hole will continue to be available on Paramount Plus for audiences to discover. Now, the 8-part Rabbit Hole launched back in March, while Fatal Attraction started in April. Hey, Ken, it's good to see you. All right. This is kind of interesting. During the defamation trial against Johnny Depp, Amber Heard claimed that Warner Brothers cut some of her scenes in Aquaman 2, blatantly telling the courtroom that the studio didn't want to include her in the film. Now, director James Wan has admitted that that's kind of a fair statement, but not because of the trial, but because she wasn't in his head while developing the film, which was always planned as an outright buddy comedy centered on Jason Momoa's Arthur Curry and his brother Patrick Wilson's Orm. Wan said, it's fair that Heard said that about the character being pared down because she wasn't in my head as I was writing the movie. Actors don't necessarily know what we directors behind the scenes are thinking about. But this was always my plan from the start. I pitched that the first film would be a Romancing the Stone type thing, an action-adventure romantic comedy, while the second would be an outright buddy comedy. I wanted to do Tango and Cash. So that's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out. More stuff coming from the new Marvel book, the official timeline. According to the book, they give what is believed to be the final fate of Wanda Maximoff. The book states very clearly, the Scarlet Witch is finally stopped, and this is talking about the end of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Scarlet Witch is finally stopped by what she loves, her children, who are safe and happy with their own mother, but are terrified of the sinister version of her. As the kindly 838 Wanda gathers the boys and assures the heartbroken Scarlet Witch they will be loved, the Wanda Maximoff of Universe 616 surrenders. She destroys Wundagore and collapses it upon herself, ending 2 great threats to all of the multiverse. And while there's been some question about her surviving that moment, partly due to the fact that there was a flash of red light right at the end, the book seems to make it pretty clear that she's gone. But with a multiverse, there's always a chance that Elizabeth Olsen may return in another version of Wanda, or you just look at the fact that it's a comic book movie, and deaths are never that serious in comic book movies. So, okay, one last thing we're going to cover, and then we're going to take a break, but this has to do with Thor 5. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about Thor 5. Would it happen? Because I know that Bob Iger, when he came back, said that not every movie needs a sequel. We don't necessarily need 2, 3, 4, and 5 of some franchises. Thor, of course, being the franchise with the most sequels. But Love and Thunder just didn't hit like everybody expected, especially after the success of Ragnarok. Well, they did leave clues of what Thor 5 could be. You know, they introduced the character of Hercules at the end. They have Brett Goldstein playing him. Brett is really popular right now because of Ted Lasso. So I think that would be a great thing to bring in. And they do say Thor will return at the end of the movie. But now that he's teamed up with the daughter of Gore, you know, you're not quite sure what you're going to get. But what we do know now, or at least what is being stated, is that if there is a Thor 5, and they're saying that it's beginning early production, like they're starting to talk about it, they're starting to put somebody on it, that type of thing. that Taika Waititi will not return for the fifth Thor movie. Marvel has decided to move on from him. If he returns, it would only be to play Korg or something like that. So overall, he's moving on. So, all right. That's the main news stories. There is the one major rumor, and it has to do with the Marvels. So if you want to know nothing about the Marvels, then when we come back, I'm going to do a spoiler warning, and you can bail out then. And then we'll do something to let you know that it's safe to come back. We'll put the spoiler thing up, and then when we take it down, it'll be safe to come back. All right, and then we'll talk about Werewolf by Night in color. So we'll be right back in just a minute.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales. There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. You want to stick around today? We got a great lineup. We have What's in the Box with Miss Jen. Then later on will be the Comic Book Beardies talking about all the X-Men Krakoa Island saga, as well as the new line of DC books that have Sandman, The Flash, and Green Lantern getting new books, but we're talking about the Golden Age versions. Wesley Dodd, Alan Scott, and Jay Garrick. So those books are out, and the Beardies are going to be talking about that. Triple B says, Marvel is going to be rated R, and the fans are finally going to get what we want. Is that the spoiler, Dan? No, that is not the spoilers. But let's get into that. So just in case, this is legit spoilers here. And I just want you to be ready. So, JD, if you would. I feel like we need an all clear. Something like that, but as an all clear. So, okay. As you guys know, there has been a narrative online that the Marvels was going to bomb, that it was going to absolutely tank, that the initial ticket sales are not great. They're down there with like Quantumania and stuff like that. And we're talking about a movie that did $1 billion, the original. So having the sequel that low, people are stressing it. They're talking about how it's not going to be good. And then yesterday, a new narrative came out. And suddenly, if you look online, people are excited for the Marvels. There are people saying, I can't wait for this movie to come out. This is going to be awesome. And they are talking it up like crazy. Now, could this be Marvel running around with big piles of cash and going, here's some money for you. Talk nice about the movie. Here's some money for you. Could be. But I know that with the strike going on, with the writer's strike over, they might be able to do that. Because I know during the writer's strike, if you ran a website like the one I'm on and you purposely hyped or did things to hype a movie, you would be considered crossing the picket line. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Either way, I don't think that's what's happening. Because there's a rumor that came out. And it didn't just come out from like one shady source and then like 3 shady groups picked it up on it and now everybody's talking about it. It seemed to come from, there's a handful of legitimate sources out there or insiders like Daniel RPK, Can I Have Some Toast, stuff like that. Guys with a track record of getting things right. Not every time. You know, Grace Randolph is another one that ran with this story. And she's gotten things wrong just as much as she's gotten right. But the fact is, all of them came out with the same story yesterday. And I'm not kidding when I say all of them. And you look at their sites now, and they really are talking up the Marvels. Jay says, I'm one of those people that looks so much better than Captain Marvel. This is also coming from someone who likes Brie Larson. She was great in 21 Jump Street and Scott Pilgrim. I don't like her in Captain Marvel. I'm fine with her. I've got no problem with her as Captain Marvel. I think a lot of it had to do with how she was portrayed in the first movie, being that she didn't have her memory. She was confused. I am giving her the, doubt that she's going to come in and just nail this. Plus, Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel is so good, and Teyonah Parris as Monica Rambeau is also so good. But we're going to get to the rumor now. So again, last chance if you want to bail. One of the things that has been out there for a long time is that what is happening in the movie, besides the introduction of the new accuser and them having to deal with her, is that an incursion is happening. And it might be partly the accuser's fault. I don't know how it's going to tie. But the little, we see Monica in the trailer going out to this little hyperspace thing and touching it. Well, that's part of the incursion thing. And we know the incursions are important for what's coming up with Secret Wars and how it's likely Marvel's going to bring some characters in that haven't been in yet, like the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. And we know that some of the X-Men from previous movies are going to show up in Deadpool 3. So the rumor is that Monica Rambeau will be what stops the incursion. She will use her powers to stop the incursion from happening. But in doing so, she ends up trapped on the other world, the other universe. And originally the plan was that it was going to be the 813 universe, the one we saw in Multiverse of Madness with the Illuminati, and that she was going to come into contact with her mother as Captain Marvel. That was the original plan. That is said to not be the plan anymore. And that would have been the end credit scene. Basically, she would wake up in the other universe and find her mother looking down at her. Well, word is that they're changing that, and we're going to get somebody very different being the person that is looking down at her. And the rumor is, and again, this is coming from all the insider sources, and I wouldn't buy it if it wasn't this many people. The person that she is going to wake up looking over her is going to be the Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer. We haven't seen Kelsey Grammer play the Beast since X3. So this will tie into the original X-Men universe, not the more recent one with Nicholas. Can't think of his name. He was just in Renfield playing the Beast. This is going to go all the way back to Kelsey Grammer, who really did a good job as Hank McCoy in X3, but wasn't really given enough to... Nicholas Hoult, thank you. He wasn't really given enough to do. So in this, he's probably a part of the Illuminati or working for the government who's trying to figure out where this Captain Marvel comes from, or this version of Photon comes from. But this will be the first sign that things are coming together like that, you know. And then it'll pick up in Deadpool with the other X-Men, and then it will move on and pick up in Kang and Secret Wars. So that's what they're leaning towards. So you go online now, and suddenly everybody is talking up the Marvels. And they're all absolutely in love with the idea of Kelsey Grammer coming back as the Beast. Now, the interesting thing is, and one of the guys that does spoilers and stuff was talking about how he felt that this was a last-minute Hail Mary by Marvel to get people to go see a movie that nobody wanted to see. And I've got a problem with that take. And the reason I have a problem with that take is that the way it was presented is that, you know, Marvel just decided to make this change. And that's always possible. Marvel makes changes at the last minute all the freaking time. It's what they do. If they put it in, you know, the reshoots and stuff are in their wheelhouse. It's exactly what they do. But this couldn't have been something that they decided in the last month or two, because they wouldn't be able to film it. Kelsey Grammer is saying he's been on strike. So this would have had to been decided and filmed prior to the SAG strike starting, SAG-AFTRA strike. So is this a last-minute Hail Mary? It might be. Maybe they thought of filming it this way, did it, then changed it, and now they're changing it back. Possible. There does seem to be some legitimacy to this, especially with the movie coming out in today's the 26th, so we're like 2 weeks away. So it's possible people are seeing some sneak previews of it and confirming this. It's possible that some of the media has seen it but are embargoed, so this is leaking out. There's a lot of possible sources for this. So I give this probably more credibility than I give most rumors, but we'll have to see on the 10th if it's true. But all right, so that's going to wrap up the spoiler talk. We can take down the spoiler banner. All clear. And we can talk about Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night is in color. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, JD. Now, I had hoped that what would happen with Werewolf by Night being in color is that it would kind of move it not into today's color standards, but into the color standards of the 60s and 70s to make it kind of feel like a horror, a Hammer film. And while it does a little bit, the color's a little too vibrant. That's my only complaint about it. The color's a little too vibrant. And if I've got to choose between watching it again in black and white or color, I'm probably going to pick black and white. To me, it really works great in black and white. It's meant to be black and white. It's filmed that way. But I know that for some people, this is the only way they could watch it. Ed, Jay's wife, Jenna, aren't able to differentiate enough in black and white to be able to follow a movie. So this is their opportunity to really see it and enjoy it, and both have. So I think that's terrific. I'm glad they did this. But and this also gave me a chance to rewatch the film and really look at it again through new eyes. And I saw some things I thought were pretty interesting. For some reason, when I was watching it the first time a year ago, I got the impression that Jack had taken the place of one of the hunters to sneak in there and to save Ted. Man thing. But this time I don't. This time I get the feeling that he really is one of the hunters, but it's his other persona. It's his werewolf form that has the over 100 kills. So Jack is one of the hunters and is eligible to get the Bloodstone, even though he can't use it. Though I find it interesting they call it the Bloodstone in the series. Well, it's called the Blood Gem in the comics, even though the family is Bloodstone. That's just weird. So that was the first thing I noticed, that Jack Russell is not a killer, but the werewolf is. And the werewolf has killed a lot of monsters. Great. The second thing that I kind of glanced over, but this time really paid attention to, and it's funny to me, but when Jack gets there, he's approached by the Scottish guy with the beard who talks about, the makeup look and stuff. And I realized he was hitting on Jack. I hadn't picked up on that in the first pass. You know, he talks about how, it can be lonely, and, and how good he looks in the makeup. And I'm like, how did I miss that in the first one? Maybe because it was in black and white and it had the feeling of the old Universal films, that I didn't expect something like that. But in color and more modern, that just stood out. And awesome. I got no problem with that at all. But to go in a hut where you're probably going to kill each other trying to get this gemstone and, flirting with somebody, I thought that was pretty funny. Jay says, that's a question I had. If he hadn't gone first, did he know the oath? He probably did. Because that's, like I said, that's the impression I get this time through, is that he really was one of the hunters. He had his own, it was his own medallion, and you get the feeling that they knew who he was, They didn't know that he was a monster. They didn't know that he had a werewolf side, but and again, I got to give credit to the design on Man-Thing. Not only was the design awesome, but the expressions and stuff they got out of the creature. When Elsa calls him Ted and says, "You have a beautiful name. Your friend is waiting for you," and to watch him, "Oh, you're friends with Jack, okay." I thought that was cool. The little scene at the end where Ted made coffee and is telling jokes and stuff. That's all very cool to me. I like that. I like that they humanized him somewhat. Yeah, Ted was the best part of it. Hey, Ed, good to see you. And I like the interaction between Ted and Jack. And I like the fact that we can call them Ted and Jack. It almost sounds like it's an odd sitcom. Like they share a place together. Something else I noticed when I didn't notice in the black and white version is that after Elsa tells Ted that Jack had already left, he went that way. Ted is thinking enough that he stops and grabs a robe. Because at the very end, when Jack wakes up, he's got one of the cultist robes on. And that means that Ted, and what you see as he's leaving, Ted stops, picks one up, and takes it with him, being that Ted knows that Jack is not going to have a shirt on when he's done. He's probably going to be cold. I should take one of these robes for him. I don't think of the Man-Thing that way. I don't think of the Man-Thing as having conscious thought. I picture him more as a force of nature, just, going after evil and, being drawn to fear. So it's pretty interesting to see the way they did that. Preston says, so Ted and Jack are the new Odd Couple. Oh, I would love to see that. Abso-frickin-lutely. Jay says, I hope we get more of these characters in the future, even if it's just another special. That would be great. What I would love to see them do is, and we were talking a little bit about it yesterday, I would love to see them do a Midnight Suns movie. Actually bring together all of these characters in an Avengers type thing, but as a horror movie, just go for it straight out. Bring in Man-Thing and Werewolf and Blade and Black Knight and Elsa and anybody else they want to bring in. You could bring Doctor Strange in, stuff like that. And I would love to see it happening during, like in between Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, like it's, the heroes are off dealing with this other thing. It's the supernatural. Moon Knight would be another run. Yeah. The supernatural heroes have to step up. Or the other thing is, in Secret Wars, they could be, appear as a team. And just, on this other Earth, they're a team, which is a great idea. And then when everything merges together, they still exist as a team. How fun would it be to have Oscar Isaac as the different incarnations of Mark Spector, Jake Lockley, Stephen Grant, having a conversation with Benedict Cumberbatch and Stephen Strange? That would be cool. Throw in Mahershala Ali, these other guys. I'm all for that. I think that's a great. But yeah, I think Marvel really found their niche with these specials, because both that and the Christmas special were fantastic. And I wish they would do more of those. Isn't there also a Blade and the Howling Commandos, or is that just in the cartoons? I don't know of that one. I know the Creature Commandos, that's a Disney thing, but a DC thing. But Mojo says Disney is really dropping the ball by sticking to the family-friendly format. If they would just pick a franchise and go for an R-rated content, they would totally ball out. Well, they're doing that with Deadpool. They're not trying to make it family-friendly. So I think it's going to be on a case-by-case basis going forward. They're not going to necessarily all do family-friendly if it makes sense. And if you're going to do horror, the Werewolf by Night special was MTV-MA, which is the equivalent of an R-rated. So I could see them doing that, you know. And yeah, if you're doing Blade and, horror and werewolves and stuff, I think you kind of need to. But other stuff, you don't need an R-rated Captain America. You don't. I don't see it. So Ed says, agreed, me too, with a little disappointing that they weren't doing a special for Halloween, but happy they colorized Werewolf by Night. Yeah. Marvel seems to be trying to slow down. Plus, we've had the writer's strike and the actor's strike. It's hard to get things off the ground right now anyway. But Jay says it's Blade, Werewolf by Night, Frankenstein Monster, and a couple of others. Oh, cool. So it's kind of their version of the Creature Commandos. Mojo says, yeah, but Deadpool is just one movie. TVMA is okay, but they can't keep making black and white movies. Well, no, I think that one was just one black and white. And now that there's a color version of it, they don't tone down the violence in the colorized version. So, yeah, it does seem very close to Creature Commandos, Jay. JD said, Blade and the Howling Commandos only appeared in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Okay. There you go. So, yeah, Marvel has a great group of supernatural horror characters that they could really lean into. And I think they should. And even, once you get past the basic ones, you can add in Damien Hellstrom. You can add Terror from Terror Inc., Lilith, Satana. I mean, there's some really great characters that you could pull from and make its own little thing going on and easily keep it separate from the main MCU, but still have it exist in the same universe. So you could have characters like Doctor Strange and Moon Knight, go between the two. So, but I mean, you look at like the Midnight Suns video game, they couldn't just do the actual Midnight Suns characters. They felt they had to bring in Spider-Man and Wolverine and Captain America. So they just don't have the faith in it, but I think they should. Mojo says, it would have been rated R if it had been released color first. They can keep it rating by colorizing the original movie. Yeah, I can see that. So, it really comes down to, I understand why they don't do R ratings, because you lose part of your audience by doing it that way. And teenagers are a big part of the Marvel audience. So they don't want to cut out, a bunch of possible ticket sales. Where, with Deadpool, it's built that way, But you put out, you put out the next Thor movie and you make it R-rated, you're going to lose a bunch of ticket sales, and they don't want that. So I think it's got to be a case-by-case basis. I think they will do some R-rated stuff, but it's really got to be case-by-case. I think, Deadpool will be, I think when they do a Blade movie, which they are trying to do, I think that'll be R-rated because blood, vampires, you kind of need the R rating on that one. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll take one more break. And when we come back, we'll wrap things up. If you guys have any questions, post them and I will try to answer them when we come back. So stick around.
Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find the link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Go follow the experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Remember to stick around for What's in the Box and the Comic Book Beardies and SketchUp with Mog Park and her boy toy Mel. Yeah, the boy toy thing is something JD has claimed, but Mel seemed to like it, so we're going to run with that. I'm curious what you guys are thinking about the Marvels. Do you plan on going to see it in the theater? Or are you planning on waiting until it pops up on Disney Plus? Or do you have no intentions of watching it? And I'm curious if the news that I said in the cameo in the post-credit scene will change your mind. Has it changed your mind? So what do you guys think about the Marvels? You know? I'm looking forward to it. But then, like I said, I liked the first one well enough. I thought there were little things about it. I liked Samuel L. Jackson. And I liked seeing Coulson back. I liked Goose. I thought the climax of the ending fight between her and Jan Rog was not quite as good as I'd hoped. But she gets really overpowered by the end, so... Let's see. Ed says, I honestly have no intention on watching it, but I didn't see your intro, so maybe I'll change my mind. And Triple B says, I'll watch it when it comes to streaming because of the news today about the Beast. There you go. So, yeah, see, it's kind of funny. It used to be, at least I thought, a Marvel movie came out and comic fans went and saw it. And now it's much more selective, you know? I'm going to go see this one. I'm not going to go see that one. I'll go see Shang-Chi, but I'm not going to go see the Eternals. I'll see Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, but not Quantumania. And it's just kind of interesting. Yeah, Ed, that was a spoiler thing from earlier. If you're going to watch the show and you don't mind being spoiled, but if you don't want spoilers, then don't watch the stuff that took place after the first commercial break. But there are some rumors online that are getting pretty interesting, and the sudden interest in the Marvels has skyrocketed. Yep. So, all right, guys. Well, let's see. Mojo says, I've been excited for it. I wish I could go to the theater, but my wife is immunocompromised, so we'll still be doing the isolation thing. Makes sense. I'm still hit or miss on going to the theater. I am a huge Kenneth Branagh fan doing the Agatha Christie stuff, and I still haven't gotten over to see A Haunting in Venice. And now I hear it's going to be on Hulu on Halloween night. So, I've become very selective of what I go see in the theater. I saw Quantumania in the theater. I didn't see Guardians in the theater. And I'm okay with both of those. I saw Guardians here on my big TV, and I was okay with that. So I think it's just changed. Everything with the pandemic changed going to the theater versus watching it at home. And I think it has to be a pretty interesting or special movie. I don't think people just go to the movies as much as they used to. I think now they go for a certain movie. I think Barbie and Oppenheimer did really well because of the whole push to see both of them, that trend. But you get other movies coming out, and I don't think it's as much a knock on quality of movie as it is that people just don't want to go to the theater as much, It's expensive, and sometimes it's not that much fun. You got a lot of people. The attitudes about this world we live in have changed. And I think the theaters have to adjust to that. Maybe what they need to do is start redesigning their theaters to be, a little more distant, a little more, hey, we got 4 seats here and there's 6 seats over here. And there's, that type of thing. Ed says, I've gotten too addicted to watching from the comfort of home and my big screen free snacks, pause for the potty. Can't do that in the theater. Exactly. So, I think the pandemic may have hastened the demise of movie theaters. It'll be interesting to see if something can come along. Barbie and Oppenheimer did a good job of getting people into the theaters, but it hasn't stuck. You don't see it carrying over. People are going back to, the box office numbers are just smaller and smaller each week. So a lot's changed. But all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. This is the end of the week for me. I hope you guys have a good weekend. I will be doing Pop Go the Writers on Sunday night with Jim. And then we'll be back next week where we'll talk more Loki, and that'll be Halloween Day. So that's why I did the spooky stuff this week, because we'll be talking Loki then. So, but JD says, I don't think they'll go away. There will be far less, either giant, huge luxury theaters or small art theaters, nothing in between. Good. Yeah, I can see that. Thank you, Ed. I hope you have a good weekend too. Triple B. Mojo says it's really annoying how so many people judge a movie by the box office numbers, especially since the pandemic. People don't go to the theaters like we used to, and people take that as a meaning as a movie's bad. Exactly. You know, and we see it all the time. We see movies that don't do as well, but they get great critic score and great audience scores, or we see a movie that does do well and gets panned. So who knows? But all right, guys, stick around for all the other great shows we got, and I will see you next week. Good night.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.